Friends, it's time for another installment of Sheila's long, hot summer of access to information scandals about the Liberals' mishandling of the migrant crisis, both from Syria, but also from the United States. Today's exclusive access to information documents are part of a package we filed wanting more details from the Public Safety Ministry on the housing of illegal border crossers in Cornwall, Ontario. Right after Justin Trudeau's famous Welcome to Canada tweet that caused a border crisis as illegal migrants self-deported themselves into Canada from the United States, Cornwall, Ontario suddenly discovered that they would be the new home to a makeshift migrant camp to house those same illegal border crossers. Cornwall politicians at the time said that there were hundreds of mostly Haitian migrants being sent to their town by the federal government. You see, they weren't crossing the border at Cornwall. They were crossing the border at Roxham Road and other places in Quebec, like Laval and Southern Ontario. But they were being offloaded onto the people of Cornwall to take care of. Hundreds of them, basically overnight. At the time, Brad Nutley, the municipality of Cornwall's emergency response chief, said that the Canadian forces were building a tent city on the corner of a lawn of a privately run conference center to provide temporary accommodations for up to 500 people while they wait their asylum claims to be processed. Local residents were complaining, of course they were, about the noise and the lack of information from both the municipality, who probably didn't have any information to give, and the lack of communication from the federal government. So I went looking for more information. We wanted to find out exactly what kind of people poor little Cornwall was ending up with. We already know, by the very nature of their asylum claim here in Canada, that the migrants are already willing to break both the law in Canada and the United States. But did it really just stop there? Let's jump right into these documents, shall we? These are a list of potential questions that may have been asked of immigration and public safety officials about Cornwall, with the prepared responses and talking points attached. Question 6. How many cases, percentage of asylum seekers at Laval have serious criminality? Now, Laval is the Quebec border crossing where most of the migrants heading to Cornwall are entering into Canada. How many cases, percentage of asylum seekers have been detained? The answer: less than 1% of asylum seekers at Laval have serious criminality, and less than 1% of asylum seekers have been detained. Okay, that seems low. Maybe we shouldn't worry so much. Except the same documents say that at the peak of summer, there are 350 migrants crossing at Laval daily. So that means roughly 3 people at that one border crossing per day are being detained for serious criminality. 1% may seem low, but the numbers of migrants are just so high. And that really needs to be put into context for the people who have to live nearby all of this. And let's be clear, being detained for serious criminality does not mean that a migrant is immediately deported. Those people who are making asylum claims and who are also found to have serious criminality are just detained, maybe jailed, maybe not, but they still go through the years-long process of seeking asylum, and they will do the whole thing the entire time from Canadian soil. I found another interesting tidbit, again, deep within these documents. Here, bureaucrats are discussing how these migrants are actually getting into Canada. What channels are they using to land themselves in the United States to then stage their asylum claim here? The documents say there appear to be 2 main pathways for this movement. First, there is a route through the U.S. using genuinely issued visas and then proceeding to the Canadian border after a short stay in the U.S. Now, this first group are just a bunch of country shoppers who are overstaying a United States visitor or work visa and just don't want to go home. Now, that doesn't make anybody a refugee. It makes them an opportunist, a criminal with no regard for the laws of either country. Now, the document goes on The second route involves migrants reaching North America through the Mexican corridor. Once in the U.S., migrants from both pathways make their way to Canada using routes that are available on the internet or by community word of mouth. Now, that last part about how many of these migrants are coming through what they call the Mexican corridor into the United States for the explicit purpose of illegally entering into Canada, that part should frighten and scare us all, because you know who else uses that corridor to get into the United States? MS-13. And Canadian officials have warned for at least several months now that MS-13 could be using that Trudeau-created border crisis and chaos to make their way into Canada. MS-13 is considered the most dangerous gang in the world, and according to reports in the National Post, it has had at least some presence in Toronto for at least 10 years. There are some suspected 10,000 MS-13 members in the United States and 50,000 throughout Central America, and they're listed as a transnational criminal organization. And in the past, they used the Obama-created border crisis at the U.S. southern border to swell their ranks. It's what they do. They use chaos. They're devil worshippers and drug and human traffickers. They're into murder and prostitution and kidnapping and torture. They are the animals Donald Trump describes them to be, satanic and evil. I can't tell you what those people with what immigration officials call serious criminality, who were warehoused by the federal government until some far-off immigration hearing, have really done. I don't have that information in these documents. But if some were MS-13, would I be shocked? No. And would they get a drawn-out admissibility hearing years from now? You better believe it. And let's remember, folks, these numbers only reflect the migrants caught by the system. They don't reflect the criminals who sneak through in an overwhelmed illegal border crossing to disappear into Canada forever. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunreid. Have you heard? The Conservative Party of Canada actually banned us, a friend, from reporting at their upcoming Halifax convention. But we're going anyways to help cover the cost of our trip to Halifax. To see the whole story and to sign our petition to Andrew Scheer, go to letusreport.com.